Kennedy Center.
You are now watching Maine Wire TV with your host, Tom Shattuck, featuring Maine Wire Editor-in-Chief Steve Robinson and the indispensable John Featherston.
I turned my head for 5 seconds today, and there's Steve getting the Medal of Freedom at the State Capitol building in Augusta today. We'll talk about that in a... Well, no, you know what? We should actually play that video. Let's play the video. This is an award from the Maine Senate Republicans, or an acknowledgement from the Maine Senate Republicans, giving Steve a presentation because of the award that the Maine Wire got for all of their great coverage. It's from the Dow Award, which is part of Turning Point, Graham, is that right?
It's Young America's of Freedom, so a slightly different organization. It's,
YAF. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, YAF, yep.
So we'll just go right here to this presentation to Steve Robinson and the folks at the Maine Wire with some excellent name drops by, is this Trey Stewart? Is that who it is?
Correct, yep.
Certainly, I think, is a testament to Steve's professionalism and all the hard work that he's done reporting as the editor-in-chief of the Maine Wire. Steve's a native of Dexter and a graduate of Bowdoin College and a Mainer through and through. Previously worked as an executive producer for the Howie Carr Show and Barstool Sports' Kirk Minahan Show. He produced The Case, which is Minahan's cold case podcast investigation into the 1989 disappearance of Jennifer Fay, and as we just discussed, received the Dow Prize, which is an annual award founded to recognize excellence in investigative journalism. In 2023, the Dow Fang and Angela Foundation, DAF, partnered with Young America's Foundation's prestigious National Journalism Center to honor truth-seeking journalists, believing it is essential to celebrate reporters advancing the public interest through robust investigative work. The award is open to all U.S.-based news publications, independent reporters, and American media outlets. Applications are evaluated on 5 criteria: investigative depth, public interest, fairness and accuracy, style, and impact. Prize-winning journalism that stands out for accuracy and courage is exactly what Steve has accomplished. This award recognizes courageous journalists and gives recognition often ignored by other organizations and media outlets. With their charitable foundation, Dow Fang He and Angela He hope to revive the American media's spirit of curiosity, skepticism, and vigor. Courageous journalists are essential to our society. Above all else, the Dow Prize honors truth, and we are proud of his work and his team to advance truth here in Maine. Some of Steve's other most notable works have included a variety of other pieces, including in 2022, first reporting on Damascotta's mom, Amber Levine, and her daughter being secretly transitioned and provided a chest binder by Great Salt Bay. In 2023, how Chinese marijuana grows took over rural Maine. In 2024, records showing of votes were cast under the names of non-citizens in multiple elections in Maine since 2016. In 2025, Maine care fraud amid whistleblower Chad, I'm going to butcher the last name here, Bernardi's allegations surrounding Gateway Community Services, and recently no-bid contracts and other issues with the Office of State Procurement from our state auditor. The list goes on and on. Those are just a variety of things that Steve and his team have worked to uncover here in the state of Maine since they undertook this venture that they are deeply committed to here, reporting on truth in the state of Maine. I personally, as a lawmaker, am benefited from the work that he is doing. I know that a number of us are as well, and appreciate all of the work that they do, sometimes putting themselves in harm's way and in between some bad actors, both from Maine and from away, who just create chaos in our state and otherwise create some potentially dangerous situations. So my hat is off to them for the bravery that they have to be willing to go out to do that. Investigative reporting can be a very dangerous thing, and I appreciate the fact that a Mainer is being recognized on the national level for the work that they are doing. So with that, I congratulate Steve and his team. I'm glad he's with us here today in the chamber and appreciate all the hard work that they're doing over at the Maine Wire. Thank you, Madam President.
The chair is
Here,
pleased
here.
to recognize in the rear of the chamber, Steve Robinson. He's joining us from the town of Topsom. He is the guest today, the senator from Aroostook, Senator Stewart. Would he please rise and accept the greetings of the Senate? Ooh, jeez. Didn't break the gavel.
Cool as a cucumber, Steve Robinson. That was a great moment for all of you guys, for all of us, the whole team. This, recognition is not something that we are ever going to, at the Maine Wire, ever going to get used to, because we're not here to make friends. It's just the point. That's the problem. The Portland Press Herald folks and the Bangor Daily News folks will always get invites to better and cooler parties than we get. That's just life. That's what they're in it for. And that's the direction we've chosen. It's easy. It's easy and simple and fun and effortless to be a hack in media. But that's not what we're doing here. That's not what we're about. Everybody that it's involved in the Maine Wire is passionate and is super hyper focused. I've been blown away. I'm like, Steve should get a prize for just assembling a great team, because there's not one person working for the Maine Wire who's not an alpha and a go-getter and a hustler. And it's just not something that you find everywhere.
Well, Tom,
Go ahead.
I had the pleasure of being in the room, and I have the card-carrying member. I'm of the Steve Robinson fan club, and I have to tell you, I felt like I was with Brad Pitt today. Everybody in the State House was coming up to Steve and shaking his hand and congratulating him, and it was like to be in with a celebrity. I mean, and it was so refreshing as somebody who respects Steve for such a long time to see what he has built. Along with Graham, because Graham received this award too as well, and the respect that is shown, and there was some bipartisan respect shown to Steve today, which I thought was very encouraging as well, and it's just so nice to see that the Maine Wire and Steve and Graham got a special shout out, because it's nice for the team, but most importantly, it's well deserved. So.
Here. We are. Garrick Hoffman is with us. Graham Pollard, John Featherston. I'm Tom Shattuck. Steve Robinson will be joining us in a little bit. On the chat, James says, "Congratulations, Maine Wire." We'll marinate in some of these comments for a bit. Michael says, "Congratulations, Steve and Graham. Very nice that your good work is being recognized." Jason says, "Thank you, Maine Wire." James says, and actually, here's a bit of reporting, John, you could break. James says, "You mean Janet Mills wasn't there to thank him?" Did Janet Mills make an appearance, John Featherston?
No, she's still hiding under a desk, because anytime John Featherston's in the State House, she's nowhere to be found. But she'll send out her little press secretary to tell me to send him an email that he might look at. He doesn't. He doesn't say that he's going to respond to it. He might look at it. So,
That was a classic today. I'm going to show, let's roll this, Matt, this video of John today trying to talk to Janet Mills and having her flack come out. This is true. This guy has a flack aura. It's beautiful. If you ever want to get into covering state politics, get used to guys like this.
Hi, how are you? Nice to see you again. How are you? I was wondering if I could talk to somebody. I'm John from the Maine Wire. I was wondering if I could talk to somebody here on the staff about Governor Mills. Governor Mills appearing in the Epstein files. I was wondering if somebody could give me a comment on that. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Good to see you again. How you been? Good. Not bad, thanks. Thanks for coming out to talk. I was just wondering, I mean, it was a very cursory, but I know Governor Mills showed up in the Epstein files, and I was just wondering if you guys are going to put out an official statement on it, or
shoot me an email. And
okay, so just shoot you an email.
You know what? Steve, I was sure. I mean, John, I'm sure you were going to get a face-to-face, but shoot him an email, and I'm sure he'll be right on that. Did you shoot him an email?
I have shot him an email. This will be the 6th time that I've shot him an email, and this will be the 6th time that I don't get a reply, Tom. I mean, it's as I say in this video, it's standard operating procedure there in Augusta. You don't want to talk about gateway communities. We don't want to talk about the Epstein files. And you have to applaud him because he's always, and that's Janet Mills' press secretary. He's always very consistent. He never wavers. He does always say, "Send me an email and I'll see if I'll look at it." You know, he never once ever commits to, "Yeah, give me an email and I'll reply." Never once does he, and he won't reply this time either. So I mean, I'll wait every day. You know, like go out to the, to refresh my email, but it won't come. It won't come.
You know what's amazing, John, is it would be so easy for him to just give you like a 2-sentence comment, like, "Yeah, we're aware of it," and it makes it a bigger story. The fact that they're ignoring it, and they still have not been able to adjust and be like, "Yeah, we'll just give you like," even if it's a lame comment, he could give you something so easily there. And yeah, like you said, right. I was going to ask you, he's never replied to your email once, so it's just
never was.
The song and dance just keeps going on for months now.
Matt recommended creating a compilation of all the shoot me an email responses, and I like that idea because we have plenty to work with now.
Yeah, it is. You know, after a while, and you guys have dealt with these guys, these Flax comms people don't recognize themselves anymore, and they don't realize that they're not acting like human beings. So they come out and do the shoot me an email. We'll circle back with you, that kind of thing. And they're just automatons. There's nothing human. There's the really good ones remain human. But you're right. They should have had something. So like, what if you were to write up a story today that you're getting nothing? There's crickets from the Mills, from Janet Mills, who's running for Senate, who you figure would have something to say since she's been named in the Epstein files, would have something to say. It's an opportunity for her to get her defense in there, to get some good verbiage in there, but instead they're just going to, they're hiding. Essentially, they're taking a step back, or it's the Homer Simpson step into the bushes, and they're thinking, okay, if we can just hold steady here and don't create any conflagrations, I can start looking for apartments in Alexandria, Virginia, or Georgetown soon, and we're moving on up. So no, we're not talking to any media, especially oppositional media, which is the Maine Wire. And yeah, it's for me, it's no way to live. I don't know how that's fun when doing a job like that, but like Graham, they're happy to do it.
There's a leaked video of that guy. He's got a little bit. He comes across as a nice professional guy to John, but there's some anger behind the scenes with him that we have heard about. So I don't know if that veneer that he's holding up for the 45 seconds he's talking to you, when he scurries back into Janet Mills' office, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation to hear what's happening. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to have luck finding these apartments if his goal is to join Mills over in Washington, D.C., because the way it's going, I think it's going to be a rout for Graham Plattner at this point.
Ooh.
I mean, plenty of time and things could change, but this campaign has been a dud of epic proportions, I think, and her team has not exactly been helping her out in salvaging this dud of a campaign. And today is just another example of that.
Dude, if you look at literally any post of hers from her Facebook page, literally any single one, the comments are just absolutely coming for her, like, pitchforks and everything. Like, people really, really, really do not like her. She just seems so massively unpopular. It's almost comical. But yeah, so it's like no matter what she tries to do or what her team tries to do, even for her social media, it is never working in her favor. Like, always backfires, and it's actually like really amusing to watch.
In Garrick, I think that one of the biggest examples of that was the State of the State the other day, where every cliche in every just overly haggard platitude she could think of, she shoved into this thing. There are far too many backbones of Maine references and oh, it was flighty and at the same time winsome, and it was like either there's a team of very untalented people that are surrounding her, or she doesn't know how to mute people, or both. But that's not good, especially considering they thought they did a good job. They brought that out there and spoke for an hour and 10 minutes. That absolute rubbish, total. It was a freaking slop convention, and that does not bode well. I'm sorry. You give me 5 seconds of the oyster fisherman, the oysterman, and he's just got a much better natural knack when he's not running away from us. That should be said.
Maybe Steve Collins can write a op-ed about the persistent slop of Governor Janet Mills and her team.
Yeah, no
You
kidding.
think.
Yeah. Though I'm more pleased with the work he's done on the Maine Wire. Actually, it's like some of the most wonderfully forever top of mind insults that I find that we should all really celebrate come from some of his pieces on the Maine Wire. All right,
Hey guys,
ahead,
Tom, just I want to give a little background. I'm in the parking lot of Gateway Communities, and I have seen 4 people drive into the parking lot since Maine Wire TV has started and go pull on the door, look disgusted, and get back in their car. So there is a residual effect of Gateway Communities services not providing services anymore. It's kind of fascinating. So I might have to move later. That's why I'm letting you guys know that. Because I'm sure the bat
Do you
signal
recognize
is
anyone, John?
not as of yet. No, I thought that our Steve Robinson's best friend Sophia Khalid was walking back towards this way. That's the reason why I came here, because I did see her on the corner of the street earlier, and I went to follow her. But it's just fascinating. People go up to the door, pull on the door, and then they just drive off. And if somebody does it again, I'll turn my camera. But just interesting, there is collateral damage. There's collateral.
Like an airport lounge, like is it just a clubhouse that everyone can go hang out in? Like,
I guess
what
so,
exactly is happening? Why would you even want to spend time at the office building like that?
I do not know.
By the way, have you seen the latest on the Leering Center in Minneapolis?
They took the banner
was
down,
taken
right?
down.
Yes, they've taken it down. They've emptied it out, and they're not pretending anymore. We're now the empty brick and mortars now are continue to be legitimately, officially empty brick and mortars.
Were those children that they bust in? Were they paid like a going rate? Or are they actors now? Are they officially on the union payroll?
That's a great. It's a legit question, actually, as to how the children are going to deal with this precious resource being gone. That's just one of the national stories, and of course has great relevance in Maine. This story too that we got some video. Matt, this story in New Orleans. Breaking: ISIS just arrested a New Orleans police recruit who's an illegal alien from Cameroon with an active deportation order. Which brings us, the bottom of this video, Matt, is this police chief who we've seen before, one of the pinnacle of incompetency. I want to play her explaining this away and telling us where our priorities should be.
We know that you are not aware of yet, but we also know that it will become a newsworthy item, and therefore we're going to go ahead and share it with you. We don't have a lot that I can tell you. But as of this morning, ICE did indeed take into custody one of our police recruits who we hired and was in the police academy at the time. We've had conversations with ICE regarding this. There was no struggle involved in any of it. The recruit was taken into custody without any incident whatsoever. So what you would want to know about this particular person is that on our end, when we were doing the hiring process, there was nothing that was in the packet that would have us have a reason to believe that this person did not have legal status. There is some question that may have developed later, but there was a signed order by a judge for his removal back in December. We hired him way before that.
I love that there was nothing in the packet. It's like when you go when you go to a hotel to check in and they say, we can't find you in the system. It's like, oh, well, that's not my problem. That's your problem. The packet is your problem, lady. It's the same lady who didn't know that they had bollards to protect people last year, the revelers who were mowed down as terrorists last year in New Orleans. I know that the story is incompetence, and there's plenty of that to go around, especially in big blue cities. But how many illegals are in possession of really important jobs in this country and are making really big decisions? Like that's a problemo, Graham. Am I over blowing this?
Yeah, I mean, I was in New Orleans back in August, I think, a couple months ago, and I was there for like 2 hours before I saw some dude who was on crack. I'm assuming just walking around with his ass out, like punching people in the street. So, anyone who's been to New Orleans and walked down Bourbon Street, the human feces on the ground is fairly noticeable. So I don't know, maybe you got their priorities wrong, or they've got their priorities wrong. But this is actually, I mean, we see this in Maine too. This happened in Saco, which is the story that John was all over, where there was a non-citizen working on the police force. And then obviously recently with the ICE deportations or detentions of the corrections officers in York County and Cumberland County, there's still some, it seems like lingering questions about those. But the real issue is just that there's clearly whatever packet, as she mentioned, or whatever background system that they have is flawed and is not properly working if there's this disconnect between the police stations and jails and all these other positions of influence. Yeah, you don't want non-citizens running around with guns policing citizens. I think that's a fairly standard baseline of living and being in a society that I think most people could agree upon. And I suspect it's happening a lot more across the country than the locations that, or than the incidences that we just know about. So, yeah, something's got to happen where this they need to just get this figured out with the hiring process.
Well, Graham, you mentioned the Old Orchard Beach, and when I went to the Old Orchard Beach, the police chief says to me, "Well, he doesn't carry a gun." And I'm like, hold on a minute. Let me get my phone out. What's this picture? What's this picture? He's got a gun on his hip here. He's got a gun on his hip here. Like, what are you talking about? And here's the thing. And I have to laugh because in Massachusetts, Maura Healey said all of the migrants were vetted. They weren't. She lied. It was a flat out lie, and we proved that it was a lie. But even if they were vetted through the Corey system in Massachusetts, nothing would come up from them because they all came from a foreign country. They had no record in Massachusetts. And you are seeing the same pattern here with these correction officers is, yeah, they haven't committed any crimes in America. But what you're seeing, and it hasn't come out in the news yet, but you're going to find that some of these correction officers, they didn't commit crimes in America, but they corrected crimes in their home countries that they came from. And somebody in Washington has to change this vetting process. First off, probably don't hire anybody who's not, whose visa ends in a couple of years anyway for law enforcement. But to hear these sheriffs and these police chiefs come out and go, "Oh, we didn't know." Well, incompetency is no excuse for for being for allowing this to happen. It's just mind-boggling. Like in this picture, if you could scroll out a little bit, this guy has a gun on his hip, but the chief's like, "Oh, he doesn't have a gun." Like, yeah, he does. He carries a gun every day.
And also, what police officers are not carrying guns? Like, is that
you can't can't be a police officer without a gun.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm like, that's
you can't be a police officer without a gun. You have to be able to defend yourself. Yeah,
like the Will Ferrell character. It was The Good Guys, the movie with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah,
it's like, but Garrick, it's funny because a lot of these mayors are saying, we can't find people who want to be law enforcement who are native-born Americans. Like, yeah, why do you think that is? Why does nobody want to be a cop anymore? Geez, I have no idea why that would be. It's like you're freaking calling federal law enforcement Nazis now. You spent the last 10 years going after law enforcement as being militarized shock troops. So, like, yeah, no, you've destroyed the brand of being a cop, and now you're bitching and moaning that you can't find any.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they if this started happening, like, I don't know, like with the Army or Navy or anything like that if they're going to just keep denigrating the role, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's true. It's like they just keep stigmatizing the roles over and over and over again. And like, you know, especially during 2020, after George Floyd, it's like I'm pretty sure a lot of people, a lot of
Oh,
law
yeah.
officers were quitting like en masse after that, especially with all the defunding threats that were kind of hovering around.
Jacob Fry says all the time after the George Floyd stuff that we're down to just 500 cops for the whole city now. Whose freaking fault is that? You guys let them burn down the freaking police station, among other things.
Imagine working for that guy.
Yeah.
Imagine reporting to that guy. Oh.
Yeah. Well, Tom, in Portland, it's the same situation with the buses, the buses that the public transportation. They said, I'm going to get this number wrong, but it's directionally correct. Something like 40% of the bus drivers are non-citizens. And the explanation for that is that, oh, well, we can't hire any bus drivers. Well, I don't know. Maybe you could try a little bit harder to hire an English-speaking bus driver and not use that as an excuse because, like, as we've seen with the CDL drivers, that's an accident waiting to happen. So I think they're just throwing this excuse around to justify the behavior of hiring these non-citizens. And then, someone will deport it and they'll like, oh, this is a municipal bus driver from Portland. They could never do anything wrong. It's a mother of four. And that's how they kind of get them ingrained into the system. Well, I don't know. I feel like, how hard can it be to hire an American citizen for these critical infrastructure roles? Like, it can't be that difficult. And I just feel like it's an excuse.
Well, yeah, and since COVID, you've essentially semi-retired half a generation of Americans with subsidies too, and it's okay. You've disincentivized getting out, leaving the house. Now, congratulations. There is this. We can't play it, but there's this national. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It shows a bunch of people. People like the Signalgate people who are hounding ICE. These women in Subarus who go after these ICE agents, and one is a black law enforcement officer. And at one point, they decide, since he's not relenting and he's still doing his job, to call him a house N-word.
Oh,
yes.
It's like the same people who, if there's like a black individual who like doesn't go along with their their desired ideology, then they're like Uncle Toms, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is so insulting, like radically insulting thing to say.
Yeah, as an actual Uncle Tom, I know that this is throwing these aspersions around there's nothing funny. There is a piece of national news that does also affect us in Maine that I want to just mention, and we can all kind of riff on it. There is the American Society of Plastic Surgeons issues a new position statement opposing gender-affirming surgeries in adolescents under the age of 19. They also acknowledge the risks of endocrine interventions, poor guidelines, inappropriate use of autonomy principle. So it's happening, is what's happening here. And they're the latest institution to now fold and say, yeah, we got it wrong here. At what point? And we'll start with you, John. At what point does this resonate into policy in Maine?
Well, you go to the Maine Wire and you see the article that we put up today about, Maine dads protecting girls' sports. Maine's going to be the first state to put a stake in the ground and say, hey, listen, boys don't belong in girls' sports. And this whole, preaching this, transforming your kids in the schools, Maine's going to be a leader on this. And, my biggest thing, like when I was a kid was, not getting in trouble at school. And, I wanted my kids to be able to read and write. And now we have to deal with, Tom, God bless you. How you and your wife have to deal with this now, having young children in the school systems. My heart goes out to you because I don't know that I'd be able to handle it. It's so crazy.
It's built into the job now is we edit our kids and deprogram our kids all the time. They hear it coming from my house all the time. And my wife is far more conservative than me. So they go in, they're all cynics. They go in knowing how to look for this nonsense. A lot of the boys anyway, my son's about to be 13. So their middle school boys are already kind of, jerks. They are laughing at all of this. They think this whole thing is a joke, which I think is great.
Yeah,
I think it's
good.
great. But there is, if I found out that some 25-year-old teacher's assistant handed my daughter an apparatus for her chest, I'm not a tough guy, but there would be a problem. There would be a problem with me and that guy right there. And this is unfreaking believable that it ever got this far. It's outrageous. It's perverted. It's twisted. And whatever, wherever anybody is in party politics, the Republicans suck and the Democrats suck and whatever. But if you're affiliated with a political group that is for the intervention of healthy kids in this like way that it includes like butchering them,
Butchering healthy children's parts. Yes.
Yeah,
that's what it is. That's why I hate the term gender affirming. I hate that term. It's so misleading.
Well, doesn't it tell you?
It's a euphemism. Obviously, it's obviously a euphemism.
Well, Garrick, doesn't it tell you all you need to know that they're afraid to call it what it is?
Mm-hmm. Well, right. Yeah. It's like, well, that's why they refer to, abortion as reproductive care, because if they can frame it that way in a sort of euphemistic way to soften it, it softens the blow a little bit, that it doesn't sound so severe, so it doesn't sound so harsh. And they do the same thing with gender affirming care, because it sounds like it's like on the surface, it sounds like it's a good, morally sound thing to do. But behind the scenes, it's like, if you look into it at all, it's obviously like extremely dark and depraved and monumentally effed up and unacceptable. So when you said like, how did we even get to this place? Like, it truly is actually mind blowing, because I bet if like even 10 years ago or 15 years ago, if you told people that this would start to happen, and it would be like not necessarily commonplace, but like fairly like significant in number, I think most people would be pretty skeptical and incredulous about it, because it does seem so preposterous, because it should seem so patently, so like self-evidently depraved. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and the system is made to catch your kid. I mean, from the pediatrician to the teachers to the nurse to any of the other aides in the classroom, all these mandated reporters, it's made the system right now to trigger your kid being pushed into the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And they are just waiting. And we've got one kid who's very flighty and very, he's a kid. His attention span is crazy. And if we ask him to go get us go fill the baby's milk bottle, he'll go, and sometimes he's just gone. Like, it's that kind of thing. Like, we keep him away from any of these people in power, because we know exactly what they're going to want to do. They're going to say, oh, wait, ADHD, autism. He's obviously he's showing discomfort in his own body. Let's have him speak to the school psychiatrist, and then we'll send him to another psychiatrist. And then all these credentialed people are telling us that unless we do some radical treatment for him, he's going to kill himself. And do we want a live daughter or a dead son? It's like, how evil is that?
Yeah.
It's pure evil.
Yeah. In contrast, unfortunately, to the Maine Girl Dads petition, Maine also has some of the most extreme protections for quote unquote gender affirming care anywhere in the world. And there's a bill that I really want to make our listeners and viewers aware of, if you didn't know about this already. This was passed in April of 2024. It's LD 227, and we dubbed it the transgender trafficking bill, because it essentially legalizes child trafficking into Maine if it's for transgender surgeries. So they call it a shield bill, quote unquote. That's what the Democrats call it. So it essentially, like, if an uncle, or really anyone, doesn't have to be a family member, brings a kid into Maine, they can get transgender surgery for that kid, and the parents of the kid will have no repercussion, no ability to stop it, essentially, no legal ability to stop it. So it's on the Maine Wire. You can look it up, and
that is that means war, is what that means. That is a provocation that is going to result, or you know what, may even call for some sort of forceful reaction. Are you effing kidding me? But another thing has to be that, Garrick, that we have to ask ourselves is, like, who's really into this? Like, who are these Democrats who are into this? who are like at like a kink, who are, oh, the child will come and I can join him in his gender journey together. Well, we were not going to let mom and dad know. They don't like being called groomers, but bleep you, man, it's the most groomering thing I could think of.
But remember, they are the paragons of virtue, Tom.
Well,
Remember
like
that.
like you said,
What's
gender affirming care, which is precisely what it's not, as a matter of fact. It is
some action, John.
Potentially. Somebody has been sitting in their car for about 5 minutes and now is going to go to the door. So I'm going to see if we can't follow.
I wonder what do you think that they're going for? What do you think that they're actually, what their intent is?
Oh,
Do you think that they're like,
she's walking around the building now, so maybe she's not going to the front door. But there's another person. There's another person in the car, very intently watching me. So,
do we know for sure how long that it's been closed for, Gateway?
Well, the day that Steve and I ran into Homeland Security here was, and Garrick was with us that day as well, too. That was what, the 3rd of January, I think it was. So they've been closed, I think, since the 3rd of January, yeah, officially.
Is that parking space where they are the closest parking space to the building?
Correct, yes.
Oh, where they are. So they're as close as they can be to the building, or are they, for some reason, hanging out there with you?
Yes, they might be just watching me. So, you know, I kind of stick out in Lewiston. So, yeah, I'm here tonight to cover the city council meeting, which will be interesting, I think. But, yeah.
How are you
that
allowed
parking
into
lot
that?
was,
What's that? What's up?
How are you allowed into that?
Into the Lewiston City Hall meeting? That'll be interesting. Yeah. I mean, what a scandal going on in Lewiston. I mean, it just continues to go on and on and on. But, I mean, we could talk all day about the gender care, but Tom, before the boss jumps on, did you see what happened in Portland last night? Portland, Maine? Oh, well, the city council and the mayors, hey, nobody has to pay their rent for 60 days because ICE is in town and people are afraid to go out of their houses. So, you know, it's like what Howie Carr said, you know, for all those years. I don't want special treatment. Just treat me like an illegal alien. What? Who, can somebody pay my rent for the next 60 days for me too, please? Like, I'm afraid to go out of the house. I might slip on the ice, you know? So some people are afraid. I'm afraid of ice, you know, I might slip on it. So can I get my rent paid for 60 days? What the hell is going on?
Is this just for public housing, or did anybody run this by landlords?
No. And the mayor was very clear that it will take an executive order from Governor Janet Mills to declare a state of an emergency. But I think you're going to start seeing this in, you know, Bangor. It'll probably come up in Lewiston tonight. That's one of the reasons why I'm in Lewiston to cover the, you know, these big cities. You know, Carl Schalene and Mayor Dion. You know, they're on the same page ideology wise. So if they put enough pressure on Mills to say, hey, we have to call for an emergency, you know, order because people can't leave their house, they can't go to the store, they can't go to work. How are they expected, you know, to pay their rent? I mean, what is going on here? You know, and as I was driving last night to Portland, we were doing Maine Wire TV. I drove down Preble Street, and Graham is very familiar, and Garrick are familiar with Preble Street. I saw 100 homeless people whacked out on drugs, freezing cold in the weather. Nobody's talking about helping these people, but now we're going to pay rent for 60 days for people, you know, that are afraid to leave their house because they're here illegally. But meanwhile, nobody's helping the homeless person that's freezing to death and on drugs on Preble Street. Like, our governments have lost their minds here in Maine. I mean, it's just bizarre.
You know what's wild about that is we actually interviewed Dion, oh God, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and he was telling us he's a former landlord, and he was relatively opposed to rent control, and he was relatively in favor of pro-landlord policies. So that just shows you the position of the city council being as far left as it is, that he feels that he needs to, I guess, go along with these policies. I mean, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but based on what he told us, at least, I would think intellectually he would understand this is a bad idea, but obviously the council is on a different page.
Mark Dion, who I will tell you is a nice guy, he's always very nice to me, a former police chief in Portland, the former Cumberland County sheriff, and now, these years later, now that he's the mayor of Portland, ICE is bad and we have to pay everybody's rent. I mean, how would you like to be a landlord waking up this morning in Portland going, what? I'm not going to get paid for
Come
60
again?
days? Right. Like, what? How does this work? So,
yeah, and John, the extra money these people save by not paying their rent is going to give them more opportunity to protest ICE out in the streets. Like, that's what this is going to lead to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then how do they decide who has to pay their rent and who doesn't have to pay their rent? I mean, who's gonna be the arbiter of that? Gatekeeper, thing. Like, if my next door neighbor doesn't have to pay rent, then why do I have to pay rent? I mean, it's gonna be a disaster.
Yeah.
It's crazy because that sounds like something that Mom Donnie would say, not the mayor of Portland.
Yeah,
but a school
go
teacher said, I'm sorry. A school teacher came and said 70% of the students aren't showing up. If that doesn't tell you that you have an illegal immigrant problem in your city, that 70% of your students aren't showing up because they're afraid that ICE is going to, and as you know, I did a ride along with ICE. ICE is not picking up little kids at schools. They're not picking up people walking down the street. They have a targeted list. They're not doing this. This whole mentality that the sky is falling, that ICE is just going to pick up anybody off the street it's almost become fact. It's not fact, but it's almost become fact in these big blue cities. Like, oh, this is just terrible. If ICE saw you walking down the street, they're not going to get you because they got a list of 10 other things that they're working on today. And so now you don't have to pay your rent. You don't have to pay for your groceries. People will just bring them to you. I mean,
well, the left would say that none of us here are brown or black, so we're protected by our privilege, but they're just disappearing brown and black people, going house to house, door to door. Can you imagine believing that? Can you imagine believing that? But freaking 100 million people do. Monique says, is it just Portland? Monique says, is it just Portland, or is Cape Elizabeth covered? If it is, when a news breaks about Cape Elizabeth, we'll have it. But like John says, is that all of these progressive local municipal governments generally do a lot of copycat stuff. Let's see. James,
it literally sounds like the Democrat politicians scared the residents into free rent.
Yeah. James says, Fethy on the scene. This is taking off, John.
Oh, no. There we go.
I need to change the intro there. The great video of John with like 200 kegs of beer at the Patriots rally. That is getting swapped into the Maine Wire TV intro very soon.
Were you on the field, John?
Yeah. I had free reign access. I was up on the stage and on the field. It was great. It was so cold, but it was a fun morning. Yeah, it was a fun morning. Yeah.
That's great. Debbie says the teachers are telling these kids at 5 years old that they have no gender. Yeah, I can attest to that. They sure are. James says we voted against the corridor and it still was jammed down our throats by the legislators. Will this be any different? Yeah, it doesn't seem like anybody cares. My favorite is when governors just incinerate, or legislature just incinerate referendum questions that the voters have voted on. They're like, no, we're not feeling it. It's a big Massachusetts thing, as John knows. Let's see. Cheyenne says you guys rock the boat for Mills to fall. Mills is useless and a waste of money to have her do what pointless. She's pointless and she is fake. We'll see. I'm a prognosticator named Graham Pollard told me that she's done, that she is going to be out of politics a year from now. So we'll see.
I think so. Well, if I could just jump in with something here, Tom, real quick, because speaking of Janet Mills, it has been 24 hours since our Maine Wire TV show yesterday. It's been, 36 hours since the Epstein Files releases come out. There has not been one single media story in the legacy media other than us that we've posted it, with the exception of a brief story from WGME that was up for a couple hours, barely had anything about her, but it did say that Janet Mills was in there, and then was deleted shortly after that was posted. For what reason, I do not know.
That's right. They took it down.
Somebody got fired.
Yeah. So for all we say about how bad Mills is, she is clearly good at one particular thing, and that is keeping the rest of the media in check. Because for them not to report on this story this far later is just ridiculous, and it's just terrible business too. Because I think we're now at like something to the effect of 4 million impressions across all of social media on that story. Like for a local Maine story to get that much impressions, I pay attention to our analytics very closely. That's like a top 2%, top 1% of stories for the entire year. Huge, huge, huge story. And the fact that you can't find anything about it on any other outlet other than WGME, who deleted it, is I think it's so perplexing, but not perplexing at the same time. It's like Mills must really have an iron grip, and your guy, your friend Jeremy Kennedy, John, I'm sure he's the one working those outlets. So
you're right.
You might not get an email from him, but I'd imagine some of these other outlets are getting a fervor of emails coming from that account.
Send me an email.
It kind of demonstrates some favoritism in the media, I would think, too, because when the news about Graham Plattner's tattoo hit, it just seemed like that was a pretty ubiquitous story. It seemed like everyone was actually publishing about that. Like it was a huge media firestorm. And now all the stuff about Mills between, now the Epstein files, but all the fraud in the last month or two, it seems like it's garnered very little press. So it's weird because they were eager to, blow up the whole Graham Plattner, Nazi tattoo thing. But now it's just radio silence when it comes to Mills and the things that are, damning for her. So
yeah, I'll give you another one. The story that went kind of viral. Some guy who was like a left-wing independent source had it of her having dinner out in Portland while the ICE protests were going on.
Yeah,
that one went pretty viral in Democrat circles, and I don't believe. I'm not 1,000% sure about this, but I don't believe that was ever covered. So even if they're playing to a left-wing audience, that was a big story among the left-wing audience that went super viral across social media and across Reddit and all those. And they even covered that up. So like that would indicate that it's not just left-wing bias, it's Janet Mills bias.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like that they put up the Epstein thing and then took it down. So did it not happen? Because I just read it here that it happened, that the files are there. And so now what is WGME? Is that like, are you telling? So it didn't happen. Doesn't exist.
Well, it's like her statement on Gateway Communities. I support an investigation, but there is no statement saying that she supports an investigation. It's the same thing. Yep.
Amazing. You would think that just for brazen page views, click-throughs,
right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Even if it's a lazy, half-assed article, put something out there and get 5,000 likes on Facebook for it. Like, just get yourself a cheap viral story. Like, why would you not do that? What's the business decision to not do that? It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. And you could even do it if you wanted to. You could put out a story documenting it and shooting it down and saying the psychos over at the Maine Wire are trying to, cause a political firestorm. And I mean, there's a way to do it, but no.
Yeah.
I mean, but then again, they're getting subsidized, right?
Yeah, but WGME, to our knowledge, isn't. I mean, maybe they are, but we don't have anything on WGME getting no bid contracts, or same with News Center Maine. I think they're just getting. I think it's just blatant access journalism. Like, we're not going to give you stories unless you do what we tell you. I mean, you never want to underestimate. Like, there could be some stuff under the table happening, but the no bid contracts were just Maine Public, the Press Herald, and Bangor Daily News. So I don't know what the excuses for the TV stations.
But you even saw it today. Garrick was with me at the State House when I asked about the Lewiston Shooting Fund. And, I purposely said in the room, because I knew other major media were there, hey, this story's gone national.
Yep.
It hasn't gone local, but it's gone national. Fox News, News Nation has picked up on this Lewiston Shooting Fund. And, you just look, and I just kind of looked at, real quick and see like what the reaction of the other reporters in the room are. And they're like, oh God, here's the Maine Wire, asking Republican leadership, what's their thought on the Lewiston shooting, and very, very candid. They said, give the money back. It's a tragedy thing. But are we going to see that reported in the news tomorrow? Yeah, you'll see it in the Maine Wire because I'm going to write about it, overnight. But you're not going to see it on, the legacy media. This is a Maine story. And the Maine media isn't even covering a Maine story. Janet Mills and the Epstein files, the Lewiston Shooting Fund tragedy. like, if you're not even going to cover the news in your own backyard, then are you even news anymore? You know?
It is ironic that it can go national and attract national attention, including by like national, like major political figures, but can't even be picked up in the local newspaper, by legacy outlets.
No,
The irony is just so funny.
It is. We should talk about Garrick, since Steve had a hit, another big media hit at 4, and maybe he's not going to make it tonight. So should we go through your day yesterday?
I'm happy to go through it. Yeah.
Please do. Tell us what you were doing yesterday with Steve Robinson.
Yeah. So Steve and I joined the US Marshals for a ride along, just like what John and Steve did just like a couple weeks ago or so. I don't even know how this all came to be. I was just kind of like, Steve essentially invited me on to, get photos and videos of everything. But essentially the plan was to join this ride along to go to the apartment building of or where there was a suspected murderer, like just chilling there, living there, as well as a woman who is suspected for being like an accessory to murder, essentially. I think I can share all of this because it's now like pretty public. And so it was like a coordinated effort it was like an interagency effort between the US Marshals and a couple other agencies. And there was a lot of waiting involved. And that's actually what the gentleman who was driving us said. He said, most of this stuff is just a lot of waiting and then the action. And I remember like driving around, I was asking a lot of questions just because, I'm so, this is so alien to me, you know what I mean? All of these operations. Sure. So I was asking a lot of questions, and, like one of the questions I asked was, should we expect this gentleman to be armed and dangerous? And he says, at literally any one of these operations that we do with any of these apprehensions, we just automatically assume that they're armed and dangerous. So, that it made me a little trepidatious for sure, because I'm like, am I about to freaking like enter a war zone? Like my mind was just racing with all the possibilities, like, especially reading stories about standoffs that happen, you know what I mean, that go for hours and hours between police and a suspect. And sometimes there's gunfire involved and everything like that. And with a dude like this, who's literally wanted for murder in Massachusetts, I'm like, okay, so he's clearly willing, as if he's guilty, clearly willing to kill people. He's callous enough to literally end the lives of a human being. So, it's, who knows if I could get caught in the crossfire, or Steve or anything like that, obviously. So there's that intrinsic risk. So around 1:00, we get to the street. We're just essentially waiting. We're like hearing all the kind of communications between the two agencies, and until, they finally decide that it's the right time to strike. So we go in there and, like on the street, and we're just kind of watching everything happen. We see a bunch of agents go into the apartment building, and we're just like hoping for the best. I'm there with my cameras, I'm taking photos, like this photo that you see here. And like there were a ton of agents. There must've been like, geez, I don't know, like 20, at least that to me was a lot, like 25 or something like that, if I were to guess. And there's some, a couple, like a whole agency came up from Massachusetts and everything like that. But I think that this was mostly like a local effort, in addition to, the actual US Marshals. So I actually still don't know why it wasn't ICE, but we were actually wondering if like, ICE Watch would show up, you know what I mean? But they blocked, but they blocked off the roads. So the suspect couldn't escape. They did everything really, really carefully. Like, I was so impressed with how precise they were and how careful they were. So then eventually, after some time, we see the agents come out with the suspect in handcuffs, as we saw like in the last like 2 pictures ago. And they brought them to their car, and there was also a vehicle in this driveway that you can't see in this picture, but evidently it had 3 passengers. They were all detained at the very beginning, and then the agents searched through their car eventually and found 3 handguns, evidently at least one of which was stolen. So I don't know if they found drugs or anything like that. I can't remember, but they at least found 3 handguns, and one of them was not legally possessed. And here's Steve to also talk through the day, maybe more thoroughly. But yeah, it was. I will describe it as a nice adrenaline rush, and it was quite exhilarating. And like I said, I'm so impressed with the work that these guys did. I'm like, holy crap, man! You guys are really putting yourselves in harm's way to apprehend degenerate losers who deserve to be in jail, as long as they're actually, found guilty and everything like that. So I should also, I don't know if I mentioned, but the suspected crime happened in Massachusetts, and these 2 were evidently in Lewiston since like September of last year. So Steve can
Steve, did they knock on the door? Did they kick the door down, or did they just walk in? How did they enter the building?
Well, I'm just going to trust that Garrick, as a professional journalist, didn't violate any of the secrets that we weren't supposed to spill about the investigation. But it was sophisticated and really cool to see, and impressive to see the level of effort that goes into planning an operation like that, especially to contrast it to what the wino cat mom view of law enforcement is, where they think that it's just, wild cowboys out looking around, running around looking for people to go arrest or harass. But there was, this was like, FDR's war room level of planning for contingencies, how they're going to do the operation, and, they had it really well planned out, and they planned for contingencies, and they had a high level of confidence about what they were walking into. And I don't think that they kicked the door in. I think that they were allowed in, but at the time we didn't have very clear evidence of that, because we didn't know if there was going to be a shootout. We didn't know if the individuals there were going to surrender peacefully. They ended up kind of just saying, all right, you got me. But there were, like Garrick said, 3 firearms recovered from one of the vehicles there, one of which was stolen from Auburn. It'll be interesting to follow up there. John, I was hoping and asking some of the Lewiston police officers who were present there, is this Ayman Osman's stolen handgun? And will you follow up with us if this story comes full circle? But it was ended up being peaceful, no shots fired. Very grateful for that. But a very, very cool operation to see unfold, and a cool group of guys that, one of the other things that I say this every time we do a police embed or a federal law enforcement embed or ride along during some training, the extent that these guys have to rely on constitutional law and legal advice before they take any step is something that a lot of people don't think about. They have to be really, really cognizant of how they develop probable cause, whether they get a warrant to conduct a search, if they've got consent to conduct a search, if consent has been withdrawn, what can they find during a search that allows them to, search further, even if the subject, declines. Like, you're the registered owner of a vehicle, or maybe you're borrowing your friend's vehicle. So who's allowed to give consent for the search of the vehicle? The person driving it or the registered owner? But what if it's parked and someone was sitting in the passenger seat? There's all these weird dynamics involving constitutional law that they always have to be thinking through, because it's not just taking a bad guy off the street. It's also having a legitimate lawful arrest and a prosecution that can stand up in court. And this individual, Michael Thompson, I believe was the name of the primary offender here. He had just been released from prison after a 15-year stretch for manslaughter. So obviously not a guy who learned his lesson while he was in jail, and I think will be headed back shortly. But there was kind of a funny moment, at least for us, because we're not going to jail. Actually, there were two funny moments. I don't know if Garrick's already told these, but one of the guys who was present at the scene and associated with the vehicle was all dressed up. You know, he looked like Johnny Depp or something. He had a vest on and a nice shirt and some nice boots and pants. As they're
darky
arresting,
looking.
yeah. And as they're arresting him, he said, you know, he was getting ready to go to court for unrelated charges. And they were like, "Oh, you're going to court, buddy. Like, for sure you're going to court." So he was escorted away, and for, I guess, for crimes unrelated somewhat to what the original investigation was for. But then when they brought Thompson down out of the building, he saw one of the there was a Massachusetts state trooper there from a special fugitive task force that they have, and he recognized the guy from Massachusetts and immediately saw him and was like, "Oh shit!" Like said that out loud. It was like all the criminals and all the cops were laughing together, like, "Oh!" So I mean, as far as ride-alongs with law enforcement go, it's not like I've done a million of these things, but that's just about as good as it could possibly go. We didn't get shot at. There was no gunfire emergency, and we got to see enough action so that Garrick at least was a little sweaty. I think Graham and I, we've done enough of these without law enforcement there to protect your back. I felt safe. That's the safest I've felt in 2 years.
I will say it was quite fun and exciting, though. It was a nice adrenaline rush. I think it was like only leading up to it, there was like the underlying trepidation going into it. But then when we were actually there, especially when we were just totally surrounded by all these, fiercely armed, jacked dudes, I was like, okay, I think we're gonna be all right. And like Steve said, the suspect did surrender peacefully. Both of them did, and without incident. So that was good. They also had a dog there too, so I'm sure that might have scared the bejesus out of them as well. And in addition to,
this is what I wanted to ask you about, Gary.
I
saw these pictures of this mighty fine-looking canine. Was he pressed into service at all? He seems like he'd be highly effective in a takedown.
Look at that sweet boy.
He was, yes. The dog, I think, added an element of fear to the equation. He was a very good boy and very well trained, and he understood that he performed his duties with valor. And I'm not sure if Garrick already got to this, but I kept walking around as Garrick was taking incredible pictures of that day. Like, I'm very confident that the US Marshals Service is going to end up plastering Garrick's photos over their website. You should be reaching out to them to make sure that they pay you some royalties, because it's probably the best photography that's ever been done of US Marshals in the field. But I kept, looking down the sidewalks and keeping an eye out. I was expecting Mayor Carl Schelin to show up. I am sadly disappointed in the whistle huffing Rainbow Anti-Ice Brigade. Not a single anti-ice protester showed up there. And granted, it was a U.S. Marshals operation, and there weren't any ice vehicles there, but there were plenty of unmarked law enforcement. I mean, they went and harassed those people in the Brewer local cops. These guys don't know the difference. But not a single anti-ice protester could be found. And we had to have been there for 90 minutes or 2 hours. There was plenty of time for Mayor Schelin to make his way down there and try to protect the fugitive from justice on an alleged homicide. But no protesters at all. I would have loved to have captured a picture of Mayor Schelin coming to poke his nose in U.S. Marshals business. But definitely hats off to the U.S. Marshals. Learned a ton about the role that they play in nationally, and also it underscores how President Biden never appointed a director of the U.S. Marshals for Maine. He went his entire presidency not appointing someone to run the US Marshals for Maine, which, because they fly under the radar as an agency, no one really noticed it. But I mean, just imagine like a governor going an entire 4 years without picking someone to run the state police. It's like, I don't understand how he got away with that or what the decision making was there. But now the former police chief of the city of Lewiston has been nominated to be the director of the U.S. Marshals. And shout out to Ryan Guay, who was the deputy supervisor U.S. Marshal, who kind of explained to us the ins and outs of the service and was our Sherpa that day for all of the arrests.
Yeah.
Well,
he also said that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Please
he did say. He said at the end that he could not have. He was really emphatic about it. He's like, we could not have staged a better operation. Like it just went so smoothly, and that's again why I'm so impressed with them, because they were so professional and diligent, and just they kicked so much ass, and it was so cool to see.
And I do love some of the pictures that Garrick got. I don't know if we have the faces blurred so we can show them, but there's some pictures where it looks like I'm the supervisor because I'm just kind of like looking over. That's at least what I'll tell my grandkids, that I was supervising. I was supervising these guys.
Oh my goodness! Oh, come on.
I was the one who was important enough not to be wearing Kevlar. The bad guys know better than to take a shot at me. I'm the warden of the North here, calling the shots. But
you have a particular set of tools.
Yes, exactly. I'm the John Wick of the John Wicks.
That's a great picture. Oh man, yeah. I do wish that if the ICE folks or Shalene had gotten down there, that maybe they could have familiarized themselves with that canine, who seems to be an excellent member of the team. So we're going to have more people are going to be able to experience some of this the same way you did, with some content that we'll release soon. I think that's fair to say. I haven't seen it yet, but I really look forward to it. I understand a lot of this is very sensitive, so it's going to take some doing. But that's good to see, and it's good to see that we can document law enforcement as professionals and as these elite protectors of all of us, because they are getting absolutely slammed by Americans these days. I shouldn't say Americans, by too many Americans, opportunists, Democrats, the left and media. And, I think it's fair to say that extractions like this of dangerous people who don't want to go back to jail are deadly operations often. And through overwhelming force and professionalism, these people pull this stuff off night and day. And they don't get a parade for every time they do this. They don't.
It's funny that you say that, Tom, because I kept saying over and over to them yesterday, I'm like, you guys are truly doing the Lord's work, and you probably never get credit for it. And obviously right now, with everything going on lately with ICE and everything like that, it just seems like law enforcement just keeps getting denigrated over and over and over again. And yet here, Steve and I are witnessing these guys who are putting themselves in harm's way to get criminals off the streets with violent history. And dude, if I was me having to go into that building, yeah.
That's my violent defender task force patch. It's a moose skull with a pair of cuffs hanging off the antlers. That's badass.
Certified badass.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Garrick, but to underscore exactly what you're saying. I wish more people could have that experience. And so when we do have the video, with people's faces redacted, hopefully they'll be able to experience it vicariously through us.
Yeah. Can I just ask you a quick question? What did you ask them about the license plate situation, or what their thoughts were on the no confidential license plate issue from Shenna? Because that would impact the Marshals, if I understand it correctly, or no?
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. Marshals provided us a statement in our original reporting. They were one of the first agencies to come out and talk about this, and they were clear that what Secretary Bellows was doing was putting U.S. Marshals in jeopardy, and we saw it. We saw unmarked vehicles that were stationed in various locations doing various activities. And if you had the ICE brigade out there running license plates like they were in Minnesota, you would have exposed federal agents who weren't doing anything related to immigration, who were literally trying to hunt down a guy who was did 15 years for manslaughter and was suspected of a homicide in Massachusetts. But you could potentially have had that vehicle surrounded by septum pierced ladies with pink hair blowing on their whistles, and just blown that entire operation. And the guy would still be on the streets, probably moving off to someplace else in the middle of the night. So there's no question that what Secretary Bellows has done has interrupted with and interfered with undercover law enforcement operations, including operations that have nothing whatsoever to do with immigration. Not that it's legitimate for her to interfere with immigration investigations, but they were very blunt about the repercussions of her decision to stop issuing those plates. And I mean, they'll come up with workarounds. I'm not going to talk about them publicly, but they will come up with workarounds. Shenna's not as smart as she thinks she is. There will be ways to keep their undercover agents undercover, because priority number one for them is keeping their brothers alive. It's a brotherhood of law enforcement, and they're going to keep each other alive and do what it takes to keep each other alive. To answer your question, Graham, yes, we did talk about it. And I would still, though, when we're pulling together the video, blur the license plates because we don't want to commit the sins that Shenna Bellows has committed.
So before we get going here, I just want to read a couple of things. Michelle says, "Thank you, Garrick, for taking pictures of the real hero, the dog. What was the dog's name? Do we know the dog's name?"
Oh, I don't know if we got the dog's name. No.
That might be confidential.
I feel awfully bad not knowing the name of the dog. See, I didn't know. I know with a lot of service dogs, you're not supposed to pet them, but some of the officers were petting the dogs, and I didn't want to look like too much of an amateur trying to pet the dog. I was trying to play it cool, like, oh yeah, like, what's your kit? What's your, you got a plate carrier? Yeah, I mean, I've got a level 3 vest. Showing off my video of me shooting with Sean Ryan. Like, I was plinking some targets with Sean Ryan the other day. No big deal. I thought petting the dog would make me look like an amateur, though.
So Debbie says, were there drones being used? I don't know if you can answer that at all, but no,
not. I don't think that there were any drones being used.
All right, before we go, Steve, we have to start where we started a little more than an hour ago. Recognized by the Maine Senate Republicans today for the Dow Award. A nice testimonial given about you in the Maine Wire and your resume, including Barstool Sports, Kirk Minahan Show, and the Howie Carr Show. They didn't leave anything off there whatsoever. Oh, and this is the here we go. There we go.
There we go. How do you like that? This is a lovely sentiment. Be it known to all that we, the members of the Senate and House of Representatives, including Ryan Fecteau, Matt Moonen, Maddie Daughtry, and Troy Jackson, even though he's not currently a member, join in recognizing Steve Robinson, who received the Dow Prize presented by the National Journalism Center for Best Multimedia Reporting. We extend our congratulations and best wishes, and be it ordered that this official expression of sentiment be sent forthwith on behalf of the 132nd Legislature and the people of the state of Maine. Signed by Maddie Daughtry and Ryan Fecteau, and the clerks of the Senate and of the House, sponsored and co-sponsored by Senator Stewart of Aroostook County, Senator Tepler of Saginaw County, Representative Messias of Topsom, and Representative Webb of Durham. So very grateful to I guess, Senate Minority Leader Trey Stewart for getting the ball rolling on that. And also sincerely to the Democratic lawmakers. I know that, there's been some disagreements in the past, but I was expecting them all to walk out or sneer or make faces or something. Was fully prepared for that. But had some sincere conversations with some of them. Even State Senator Rick Bennett shook my hand, and it was really an honor to have that experience. And I'm very grateful to all the lawmakers, independents, Democrats, Republicans, all of them, for giving us this honor. And by the way, it might be my name on it, but it is for the Maine Wire. This is not, just for Steve. Graham obviously was probably like more than 50% of the entire triad weed experience was Graham, based on pulling together the documentary, which continues to rack up tens of thousands of views on social media. You can search for it on YouTube. I think you got to search for like Robinson Report High Crimes or High Crimes Steve Robinson, something like that. Or you can just go to triadweedmovie.com and watch it for free there. But it was also even, the members of the Maine Wire staff who weren't directly involved in, crawling over marijuana farms in northern Penobscot County. They lent a hand because they had to continue business as usual while their boss was like out of cell phone communication, sometimes for 14 or 16 hours a day, wandering through the wilderness looking for Chinese pot farmers. So it was a group-wide effort and a testament to what we're building here at the Maine Wire, what we continue to build. And thank you to the Maine Policy Institute that we're partnered with as a 501c3 organization for, giving us a long enough leash when we said, hey, we're thinking we're going to make a 90-minute documentary all about Chinese cannabis in Maine, for trusting our journalistic intuition to make this film. And I look forward to tackling some even bigger journalistic projects in the future.
Well, very good, Steve. Did you want to make mention of a Republican trailblazer who was mentioned today from Maine politics from decades and decades ago at all?
Oh, Margaret Chase Smith.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if they intentionally tried to reorganize the schedule to put Margaret Chase Smith alongside with me. I mean, that's fine. Two great legends honored on the same day, me and Margaret Chase Smith. My library will obviously be much bigger. I don't know if you've been to her house, but she was about the size of a hobbit, and she had an actual hobbit-sized door. All of her doorknobs are very, very low. They'd bump you in the knee if you're a normal-sized person. But yeah, I mean, I think it was very, very fitting to have us both honored, in the same way. On the same day. And I think pretty soon we're overdue for an essay from Steve Robinson about the legacy of Margaret Chase Smith, both because I think it's been embellished and bastardized by revisionist historians, but also because of Maine Governor Janet Mills invoking it the other night. It was just too much for me to bear. The Declaration of Conscience, one of the most overhyped speeches that has ever been given in the Senate. And she basically just restated the First Amendment, but she said, we have the freedom to protest, the freedom to criticize, freedom of independent thought. And it's like, has there ever been a governor in the state of Maine who has gone to war against these precepts more than Janet Mills? If you look at the COVID era, she's cracked down on dissenters. She's used the machinery of government to punish whistleblowers. The Gateway Community Services whistleblower got a tax audit for the first time in his entire life from the state of Maine right after he's named in our reporting. They tried to kick us out of COVID-19 briefings. So you've got a governor trying to claim the mantle of Margaret Chase Smith while her entire career, every exercise of power that she's engaged in, is a living rebuke to what Margaret Chase Smith stood for, or at least stands for in the public imagination. But also, that being said, we have to acknowledge that Margaret Chase Smith became a tool of the military industrial complex afterwards. And she was wrong. There were communists. I mean, Joseph McCarthy was right. Margaret Chase Smith did the communists a solid by helping them out and really feminized the Senate and in a way that wasn't helpful long term.
This is the Steve Robinson version of the Billie Eilish. There's no such thing as an illegal immigrant in stolen land, except in speech.
I'll say we're here on conquered land, and there's no such thing as an asylum seeker. That's a made-up word to refer to an illegal alien who has been paroled into a broken immigration system that the Biden administration exploited. There's no such thing as an asylum seeker.
Here. All right. No questions with that one. All right, Steve Robinson, thanks for joining us. Congratulations. Great day for the Maine Wire, for the entire team, and for you. Garrick and Steve, I look forward to watching what you guys saw unfold with the Marshals. It seems very impressive. And John, good job. Good luck tonight, John. I don't envy what you're about to do, but man, you are committed.
I just pulled up in front of Lewiston City Hall. Looks like it's going to be an interesting evening just by what I've been here for 30 seconds, and I think it's going to be an interesting evening. Yeah.
Here we go.
Check back tomorrow morning on it. Yeah.
Looks good. Graham.
Text me if you need armed backup.
Keep your phone close, boss.
You know who's not getting backup? Margaret Chase Smith, right? Deserves it. All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 4 p.m. and with Steve, John, Graham, for Garrick. I am Tom Shattuck. Have a great night. We'll see you.
Good night.